Let's talk about Lance Leipold, the current head coach of the University of Kansas Jayhawks football program. And let's talk about his possibility of being the next Nebraska head football coach. I'm John Johnston, Coordination. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button so the Kansas people will find this and get highly irritated at the fact that we might take their coach, who's actually got them to a bowl game this year for the first time in, I don't know, since 1845. It's been a long time. Not as long as Nebraska, though. So, wow, they could take shots at us for that. Anyway, Lance Leipold, he was born on May 6, 1964. He's 58 years old. He was born in Jefferson, Wisconsin, so he's a Wisconsin guy. From 1983 to 1986, he played quarterback at Division III Wisconsin Whitewater, which is not too far away from Jefferson, and both of them are not too far away from Milwaukee, just to give you an idea where that is. As soon as he gets out of college, in 1987, he starts his coaching career. In 1987, he is the quarterback coach at Wisconsin Whitewater, their Division III school. Now, he spent most of his time in Wisconsin, and he actually has spent a fair amount of time in Nebraska because he was a coach at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. If you remember, they used to have a football program before somebody got rid of it. And he goes back after being an assistant at Omaha, and he goes back to Wisconsin Whitewater, again a Division III school, and he wins a lot of football games. I mean, a lot. His record at Wisconsin Whitewater is 109 wins and 6 losses. Imagine how disappointing those 6 losses were. He goes 34-1 in tournaments because that's what they do in Division III football. He wins 6 Division III championships. He is the 6-time AFCA Division III Coach of the Year. He won his conference, 7 times? That's a lot of winning. You can dismiss that. You know what? You can be a grouchy person and just say, well, that's Division III. There's 242 schools playing football in Division III this year. I think might be more difficult to win a championship there than playing against 120 FBS schools. I don't know. Anyway, Buffalo, he goes to Buffalo in 2015. He's there from 2015 to 2020. He compiles a 37-33 record, which, you know, Buffalo is the place where coaches kind of go to get their start in Division I, FBS, and, you know, Kansas gets a hold of him, takes him from Buffalo. And if you remember what happened at Kansas, you know, Kansas at that time had Les Miles as their coach, and Les Miles of LSU fame, and Les Miles was supposed to resurrect their program, but what came out was sexual misconduct, or let's just say misconduct with female students at LSU. And on March 8th, 2021, Les Miles and Kansas mutually agreed to part. You know, that kind of thing, which the whole thing was kind of embarrassing that apparently LSU covered all this stuff up and just let the guy go out and get another head coaching job. So it's not really anything shocking out of LSU, is it? Anyway, Leipold is hired on April 30th, 2021. Now, imagine this. Imagine us waiting until April to hire a head coach. I mean, that's like after the spring game. That's after spring practices, probably. You're going into the season. You have like almost no time to even get to know your team, meet your players, do any recruiting. You can't do really recruiting, and it's Kansas anyway. So he goes into Kansas, and we know how bad Kansas was at that time. They were absolutely in dire straits. Their football program was pretty terrible. Let's see, their 2020 recruiting ranking was 55th in the nation. The 2021 recruiting ranking was 63rd. So not a lot of work with for Lance, our buddy, coming into that program. But he won his first game that he ever played against South Dakota, and it was their first win at Kansas in 22 months. And if you remember, he goes 2-10 that season. and he beats Texas at Texas. You remember this game? Kansas goes for 2, and the entire nation, I still remember Twitter going insane and rooting for Kansas to beat Texas because nobody likes Texas. And it was an amazing game, and it was great, and it happened at Texas. And, let's see. They had lost, Kansas at that time had lost 18 straight within the Big 12, 20 straight to FBS opponents, 56 straight in road conference games. And Texas was a 31-point favorite. It still warms my heart and makes me all excited thinking about Texas losing in that game. Anyway, so he goes 2-10, doesn't have a great season, but he has 2 games that, stand out a little bit because he breaks bad streaks at Kansas. And he's making some movement. So in 2022, keep in mind, this is this guy's first year, full year on the job, and he's full year of recruiting in his full year. And he has Kansas right now at 6-5 overall. They started 5-0. And, they lost some games. They lost to TCU, who is now, I think, 3rd or 4th. They lost to them 38-31. They beat number 18 Oklahoma State at the time, 37-16, and they just lost to Texas last weekend, 55-14, which kind of a damn shame. That everybody hating Texas and everything, but he's got Kansas to a bowl game, I think, for the first time since 2009, and that's where Lance Leipold is right now. That's his coaching career. He's won a lot of games now. The pros, that's the biggest pro. He has won a lot of games, and he's been around for a while, and he has a lot of experience, and he's lived in Nebraska, doggone it. And, he's kind of a Nebraska. He's lived there long enough. I think he was there 10 years. Wikipedia shows him as a University of Nebraska assistant from 2001 to 2003, but I can't find any more on that, and I don't really remember that. I'm not sure if they have that screwed up with Nebraska Omaha or not. If somebody knows, I'm sure they can leave comments. But he has won a lot. I've said that. And he has a lot of experience. And he's an offensive guy. He is not being paid very much by Kansas. His contract is $16.5 million over 6 years. It was extended to 2027 earlier this year as a sign that Kansas wants to hold on to him. That's less than $3 million a year, and I think the end year of the contract is at $3.5 million. So that's not a lot to entice him to leave Kansas for more money. The cons, in other words, the negative points against him. Again, there's not much experience in Division I football, and that's probably the biggest. That's easily the biggest mark. I wrote down no Big Ten experience, but he did spend some time as a graduate assistant at Wisconsin. So he does have some Big Ten experience. And the other thing is, I think you look at him and you go, all the schools he was at, any fish bowls he had to live in? Not really. And we all know what Nebraska is like. We know who we are. We're hard on our coaches. And here's my impression of Lance Leipold. He seems like a very down-to-earth person. He stayed somewhere. He's certainly probably got a lot of accolades at Wisconsin Whitewater, and he made a name for himself. And like I said, for the 83rd time, he won a lot. And all those national titles. You can't just throw those away. At the same time, you kind of look at him and go, well, he hasn't been around Division I football enough for me to feel comfortable with him. I think that he is a guy who, he's not a climber, right? Like you look at Matt Rule. Matt Rule's coaching career went like this. And, he hit the Carolina Panthers and it kind of went, ugh. And, Matt Rule kind of looks like a climber, a guy who climbed up the ladder very fast. And Leipold reminds me more of Chris Klieman from Kansas State. Kind of a down-to-earth guy. He's taking his time. He's okay. He likes being a coach. I think that's pretty much proven from his experience. and the fact that he didn't move around all over the place all the time looking for the next big thing. Now, the thing is, he is a Wisconsin guy, and there's a Wisconsin team looking for a head coach too, and they haven't named Jim Leonard their new head coach, which is really ticking off the Wisconsin fans, just like it's ticking off the Nebraska fans that we haven't named a head coach yet. Would I be disappointed in Lance Leipold? I don't think so. I think he's interesting. Do I think that he would be a top pick? I'd probably put him in my top 5. Now, do I think he'd come to Nebraska? You know, there's something. Remember I said he was 58 years old? Let's go back for just 1 minute and examine this. The guy's won a lot. Have I said that? And now he's kind of getting 58. I'm 60. I turned 60 this year. And you kind of start looking at things and you go, what have I done with my life? Have I done enough? And you wonder if you're Lance Leipold, if you look at it and you go, I would make a lot of people at Kansas happy if I kept winning here. But if I went to Nebraska, they have resources. They have shit tons of money. They love their football team. They play in a crappy division right now. They will have no money, so I can recruit good players. Maybe it's time for me to step up to the next level and start really seeing if I could be one of the top coaches in FBS football. Notice how I took all my thoughts and planted them in Lance Leipold's head. But I mean, he is an intriguing hire. I don't think I'd be disappointed. I think I'd be like, okay, let's see what this guy that's won other places could do at Nebraska. We're a week away from knowing who our football coach is. And this is going to be a very strenuous week, I think, on all of us, because people are like very frustrated with us just losing to Wisconsin in the way we did. And it was painful. And people are like, we need a coach. And keep in mind, the current coach, the next coach we're going to hire, very likely is coaching somewhere else. And at the end of next week, after the regular season is over, is the time at which you make coaching moves, really, because it's ahead of the portal, which opens up December 5th, and it's ahead of the, signing day, so the early signing period. So Lance Leipold, I think there's a very good chance he'd leave Kansas for Nebraska, and I say that because I believe it, and two, because it would really irritate the Kansas people, because they're just getting their shit together. And it'd be really a shame for them if they lost a really good coach that was getting their program going. Okay. Just a note, you can see how Esther isn't concerned about the Nebraska coaching search. She's just back there snoring away, biding her time. She's okay. Calm. All right. John Johnson coordination. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to find out who our new coach is in the not too distant future. Relax. Go Big Red.